Right, call halal, Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rahakwadash, giving double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who teach and rule well. Many salutations to the hopeful elect that have been scattered on the four corners of the earth, whom are coming back into this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, seeking Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai through forgiveness. And the prophets, all right, that go out and teach, I say shalom. All right, we are risking our lives and our freedoms to be saved in the land of our enemy. And this is your brother Malakia, coming back at you through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Rakakwadash. And I watched this brother's video, Zakar Shasad 444. Okay, and you can learn a lot from watching these videos, these lessons. I have a similar story, similar testimony, and I admit, one of the elders, he speaks about in his epistles, he speaks about how fools rush in, and it's true. I made foolish decisions, and I made a lesson in the past speaking about how, you make your bed, you got to lay in it, and coming into the faith, I was able to go to the apostles and listen, and just be straightforward. I lean on my own understanding. I felt like the doors were shut permanently from the elders, and I was just going to be standing on the side, as an onlooker, not understanding what I was getting myself into. And like I said, you make these mistakes and stumble, and you have to live with them, so hey, I still desire to be saved. Lord willing, the Lord continue, to keep me out here on these highways and to listen, because, my particular situation was a lot different than this brother's. I saw other brothers teaching, and they were given double honors, and I felt like, me knowing how the elders been in the faith for X amount of years, I felt like, I wasn't gonna get anywhere, standing on the side with those brothers, that they had more knowledge than I had, and that I wouldn't be able to grow with them due to me just coming into the faith and being on the sideline, all right. And I made a decision to go and teach. I had just recently moved to LA. I was living pretty much in the valley. If you're not from California, the valley is not far from LA, a couple miles away. But anyway, back to the testimony. I saw what seemed to be brothers teaching, and I later found out through the spirit of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai that I was led the wrong way, because those men ended up becoming rebellious towards the elders of Great Millstone, and as the world teaches you, man, birds of a feather flock together, and so I even myself stopped giving double honors. I felt like they had their camp, and that I was unable to be a part of the camp, and that I was, I didn't feel mistreated or anything like that. Okay, but I just felt like, and I didn't even feel urgent, like it was urgent for me to go out and teach. All right, but I just knew that, prior to going to the camp, that I was looked at as an outsider. The doors were closed, and it was like a kind of like me being in a cold world. You know, that's the only thing I can kind of say. You know, like, you know, you ain't a part of us. You just on the outside, and you know, hey, now that I understand what I'm a part of, I get it. You know, but like I said, coming in, I made a quick, rash decisions, which goes against Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, you know, and I admit it. Okay. And this is why you live and you learn. You know, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai gives us a chance to repent and to learn lessons. There's lessons in everything. And we carry this wisdom in our day-to-day lives, you know. So this is the book of Proverbs, and this is important to understand, not just read and speak and say that you're going to do this, but actually be about what you're reading. All right, this is the book of Proverbs, chapter 3 and verse 5. It says, trust in Yahweh Bashem Yahushai with all thy heart and lean not onto thy own understanding. Okay, so I let, you know, my feelings and emotions lead me astray from being around the elders and the council. And I didn't have counsel nor use counsel. I wasn't in communication with brothers or anything like that. There was one brother that was standing on the side that I did keep some communication with through social media. But like I said, you live and you learn. I bumped my head, but like I said, I got away. Since then, I've gotten away from those men that were rebellious. And it's funny now because there's videos being brought out on those men, you know, and they're still being rebellious from what I see. And I don't hold any ill will towards those men. They're just doing their thing. They're in their lane and I'm in my lane. Okay. And now I'm teaching alone. And, you know, I've learned a thing or two, you know, since dealing, you know, with those men. You know, I've learned, you know, you can't just jump at something. You know, you see men giving double honors. They're a part of their own, you know, group. Okay, they're a part of their own camp. Yet you have to look deeper because, you know, going and dealing with these men, it was a freak show, man. I'm just gonna be straightforward. You know, you had men out of order, you know, going out to teach, and this is not to insult or talk shit. It's just the truth. You had men. They had no unity. You know, you had men going out to teach, which was, you know, appealing to me, you know, because I was eager to learn, going out every day. And I'm like, hey, I can learn some more things, you know, be with brothers, fellowship. You know, it was appealing, you know. And, you know, when I saw how brothers operated, it was a very weird spirit. You know, brothers were, they wanted to teach alone, you know. These particular brothers, you know, would act real weird when it was time to go out to camp. Like, they didn't want you next to them. They wanted to teach by themselves. You know, they didn't want to be a part of a camp, which was kind of odd, you know. So you had men teaching on one side of the street by themselves, the next man across the street teaching by himself, and just no order. It was just all over the place. It wasn't even all over the place. It just was no order, you know. And ultimately, the Lord broke what was, you know, attempting to be as a form of building up, you know. And so this is why it's important not to just jump at things, you know, and prove a friend, be patient, and not. Now I understand why the elders dealt with me the way they dealt with me. You know, the brothers, the way I see them as elders, because they've been in this faith longer than me. Okay. And you live and you learn. You know, now I'm listening to the elder over in Great Millstone in Dallas, Ariala, you know, which I'm just on my computer, so I don't have any, I'm not even signed in, but I'm subscribed to the elder and I watch his videos. you understand, what happens when you do things without counsel, And that's why I make this lesson. The Spirit moved me to make this lesson. All right. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 11 and verse 14. It says, where no counsel is, the people fall. But in the multitude of counselors, there's safety. And I left safety. I left counselors that were amongst me, okay, to ultimately end up without counsel, And it's a reason that there's order, because there's other brothers that are like-minded that come up and make these camps. But then when you build and you see what's going on amongst these camps, there's no order. The Lord's consistently breaking these camps up. And hey, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, he's doing what he wants to do. This is the Lord's counsel. And I just wanted to kind of think out loud and speak on a situation. Lord willing, this lesson reaches the ears of the elect. Hey, shalom.